Mr. President.
Senator from Alaska.
Mr. President, thank you. I'm going to speak about a really important bill that I'm hoping that we're going to pass right here on the Senate floor. It's passed, by the way, previously. It's called the Pay Our Military Act. And, Mr. President, it's pretty simple. In the event of a shutdown, and right now we're all working hard to make sure we avoid it, we need to make sure that the men and women who protect us get paid. That's it. Simple. Really, really simple. Now, I know back home in the great state of Alaska, there's a lot of frustration with our government. It seems like every day the Biden administration has another order to shut down Alaska, lock up our lands, put people out of work, skyrocketing prices on everything from gas to food, interest rates at 40-year highs, illegal immigration, which is just flooding across the southern border, a literal invasion happening right now. A lot of people are frustrated with what's happening. And the potential of a government shutdown is not going to help any of that, in my view. But, Mr. President, this is something that every member of the Senate should agree on. If there is a shutdown, a lot of us are working hard to avoid that. We need an insurance policy for our military personnel, the brave men and women who are serving on the front lines right now, at home, abroad, dangerous work, keep us safe. They need nothing less than the unwavering support of the United States Senate. The men and women who protect us often at great personal sacrifice. The least we can do as their representatives is to ensure that they receive their hard-earned pay regardless of the political circumstances that may unfold. My Pay Our Military Act is not about partisan politics, not about ideological differences. It's about fulfilling the solemn obligation to our troops and their families. And it's about providing them the stability and peace of mind that they need to do their jobs. Regardless of what happens here, they will continue to serve, to deploy, to train. We've seen in the last couple of weeks, training can also be very dangerous. Had some Marines recently killed down in Australia in an Osprey accident. The last thing these men and women need to worry about is whether or not they're going to get a paycheck next week, whether or not they're going to be able to support their families next week in the event there's a government shutdown. I want to emphasize again that I hope this bill is unnecessary, but the fact remains that this certainly could happen, a government shutdown. And if it does, we need to pay our military right now. Now, Mr. President, there's precedent, very strong precedent on this very bill, this common sense bill that has historically received the strong support from both sides of the aisle and in both houses. Let me be specific. Facing an imminent government shutdown in 2013, which ended up lasting 16 days, this bill, Pay Our Military Act, was passed unanimously by the U.S. Senate and unanimously by the U.S. House and signed by the President. Congress recognized then the importance of uninterrupted military pay for our military members and their families. And the political makeup actually was the same. You had a Democrat in the White House, you had a Democrat-controlled Senate, and a Republican-controlled House. So, simple. While I urge my colleagues to put aside their differences and come together in a spirit of unity to support this bill, I am a little concerned. My colleague and friend, Senator Cruz, and I came down to the floor last week to pass another related bill. This would have guaranteed Coast Guard members got paid in a government shutdown. We did that because in 2019, the only branch of the service's military services that didn't get paid when there was a government shutdown was the Coast Guard. Everybody else got paid. The Coast Guard didn't. Senator Cruz and I came down here last week and said, hey, in the event of a shutdown, we got to make sure the Coast Guard gets paid. Well, it was blocked. It was blocked. I still don't know what my colleague from Washington State was talking about when she blocked it. Something about, well, the authority of the Appropriations Committee. What? Nobody cares about that. Do you support our troops or not? So this bill is even more simple. Our bill, Pay Our Military, covers all branches, including the Coast Guard, and civilians that the Department of Defense Secretary and Homeland Secretary believe are necessary also to pay. Now, Mr. President, again, I hope, like in 2013, this is going to pass unanimously. And as I mentioned last week, my colleague from Washington State objected to the Pay Our Coast Guard bill. It was confounding, particularly because she was a co-sponsor of the exact same bill in 2019. As a matter of fact, here's what she wrote in 2019. When there was a government shutdown and we were trying to pay the Coast Guard, it's absolutely unacceptable, this is the senator from Washington State, that our Coast Guard families went without their paychecks during the shutdown. We need to make sure President Trump doesn't put them through this again. Whoa, that was a senator from Washington State during the last shutdown. Wish you would have said that last week. So I'm very hopeful that what happened in 2013, Senate, House unanimously came together when there was an imminent shutdown and said, hey, we might not be able to figure out how to keep the government open, but here's one darn thing we're going to do. We're going to pay our military. Mr. President, I sure hope that we can do that again, and I sure hope people who want to try to use the military as political pawns leading up to a shutdown are not going to be tempted to object to this bipartisan, much-needed bill that 10 years ago had the support of everybody.